Morning. My name is Shannon Bates, and I just want to start by thanking all of you for being here. Thank you for your time and for caring about your wellness enough to listen to what I have to say. And I'm kind of hoping this is going to be more of a conversation than a presentation, because I can give information, but I really think it's more effective if there's a communication and conversation about what Reiki is and how it can help. So a little bit about me. I live in town with my husband and my 2 adult children. I've lived here since 1998, and I came to Reiki through a grief journey, which we all have our own grief journeys, right? Whether that's losing someone dear to us, or a job, or a relationship. My grief journey started with the death of family members over many years. I've lost both my parents and 4 of my siblings, and one of which is my twin. But I needed hope. I needed faith. And for years and years, the loss, especially of my mother, really affected my health. I gained a lot of weight after her death. My thyroid, right, I was put on thyroid medicine, I was put on hormones, like all of these side effects, really from grief, affected me and my daily life. My children were little, so it also affected my interactions with my children, because I just was not the same. And years after my mother passed, I had a friend who told me about a woman who had a Facebook group, a free Facebook group on energy healing. And I thought, I'm just gonna try it. And I was hooked. I did some chakra work. Chakras are energy centers in our body. And through that chakra work, when I got to my heart chakra, I was able to release so much of the grief that I had been holding, which led me to Reiki. And Reiki, I've been practicing Reiki for 3 years now, and since then I'm off all medications. I've lost weight, I'm happier, and I feel in control of my health and my wellness. And I'm not here to say Reiki is not a cure-all, right? It wasn't just Reiki, it was other things in my life. But I feel strongly enough about it that I really want other people to be exposed to it. So is anyone here familiar with Reiki?
Yeah. I know people that actually do it like you. They're awesome. They're relatives, actually. I have 2 relatives that do it, and a friend.
Now, have you ever received Reiki?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, and so you've benefited from it, you think?
But not on a consistent basis.
Okay.
They live in New Hampshire, so I don't get up there often enough. And but I would love to, have it done again.
Experience.
Yeah, I actually felt better. I really did.
Do you think it was a more of an emotional feeling better,
Yes.
or just okay?
Yes. At first I'm thinking, this isn't real. Everybody, almost like hypnosis, you don't really believe that it works. And the man that did it, he's actually so funny. He's a funny guy, he's always cracking jokes, so it was hard for me to be serious. But once I really got into it and relaxed, and his voice was so different when he was doing Reiki.
More like calming.
Very calming, and he stood behind me, so I couldn't really see everything he was doing. But I trusted him. I think that's the word. You have to trust the person that's...
Absolutely, right? Because you're sharing like all of you coming here, you're sharing your energy with me, and I'm sharing my energy with you, right? There is some trust inherent in joining a group, and I appreciate that. So does anyone else have any experience?
Yeah, I had 2 or 3 sessions of Reiki.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like a clearing of the chakras, and it did help a lot.
Now, was it like an hour session?
It was an hour session,
Okay.
Kind of just gentle hands-on specific areas, and I enjoyed it.
That's
I need more.
fantastic. So, I think there's a lot of hesitation, right, when you hear about energy work. So let's talk about the definition. So I have these handouts as kind of a reference. You can read them now, you can use them later. I think it's more because, sometimes when you learn about something new and later you're like, oh, I wish I had known more. So it's kind of a reference for you to look at. But we are going to discuss what Reiki is. And Reiki is a Japanese form of holistic energetic healing. And what that means, right, if you look at this, Reiki is broken down. The word Rei means universal, and Ki means life force energy. So basically, it's universal life force energy. It's the energy that runs through every living thing. So we have life force energy running through our body. So Reiki as a treatment is kind of harnessing this life force energy and sending it to the person's body, into their energy field. And there's no harm, right? You're just adding more of what you already have. Okay. Now the human energy field. Does everyone kind of understand when I talk about our energy field versus our physical bodies? Right? Our physical bodies, we can touch. Our energy field is the subtle energy. And to do a better understanding of that, I want to do a little exercise called the energy ball. So if you can put your hands together, right, and just kind of rub it, get it going, and you can feel the warmth, right? The warmth starting, and that's energy. So then I want you to kind of put your hands about a foot and a half apart. And can you feel, just focus on your hands. Do you feel any heat, any tingling? And then really slowly start to move your hands closer together. And there'll be a point where you can stop, right? Kind of stop and try to put your hands closer, and you might feel some resistance. And when you feel that resistance, I can feel it here, right? And you might be able to move them closer, and that resistance is energy, right? So this is representative. This energy you're feeling between your hands is representative of the energy around our bodies, right? What's called an aura. And you may know if people get in your personal space, right? Sometimes it's a very physical feeling. And that's when they're within, people are starting to get within your subtle energy body. So along with the aura, which is your subtle energy body on the outside, inside our body there are meridians and chakras. So if anyone has had acupuncture, right? Acupuncturists deal with the meridians. They'll place needles at different meridian points to kind of open up and allow energy to flow. Reiki deals more with our chakra centers. So within our body, along our spine, there are energy centers, right? And these energy centers are responsible for interacting with the energy from the inside environment and our bodies, right? So there's an interaction, a communication. And if there's too much stress in our lives, which, raise your hand, anybody, right? It can affect our energy centers, right? It can disrupt, and it can create blockages. And I found that with grief for me, right? Because I had small children. So you're like, oh, I have no time right now to feel sad. So you're going to push that down and you're going to go about your day. Oh, anytime that happens, it really affects your energy centers. It affects your the way your body processes information effectively. And so Reiki, when I send Reiki, right, it comes through me, out through my hands. It's not my own energy, because if I used my own energy to help other people, then I would be depleted, right? So that's why it's called universal. It's universal energy, and it comes through the palms. And this energy interacts with an individual's subtle energy body, and it helps clear, bless you, bless you. It helps clear any blocks that may be occurring in your body. So are there any questions so far? I don't want to, yes.
I'm just curious because I don't understand it, but I had a little dog who loved everybody, but every now and then she would really do a very nasty bark at someone, and I always felt like it was people have an aura that animals have a sense of, because why would she choose only certain people to dislike? So I just wondered if that's what we're talking about here, that we have this aura around us?
Yes, so our aura's a little different because it really, I'm not going to get in too deep. Yes, so I'm a dog owner too, and I very much am a firm believer in trusting my dog's intuition about people, because animals and children are so sensitive to the energy around them. So, right, haven't you ever been in a room and someone walks in and they're really joyous, right? And something fantastic happens, and you can feel that, right? You can feel that energy they bring in. And on the same note, if something awful happened and this person walks into a room, you can feel, right? You can feel that heaviness, you can feel that sadness. So yes, that is the same. Animals just don't have that mental filter to say, oh, well, that person feels sick, but everyone tells me they're a nice person, so I'm not gonna bark. They just feel what they feel and respond to it. So yes, I absolutely think that is genuine, and I trust an animal's instinct for that very reason.
But that really doesn't have anything to do with the Reiki.
Well, it's all energy. Yeah, so it's all energy. So I think, because I look back and I know, because of how I was feeling in my life, I'm sure that I carried within my energy body, within my aura, some heaviness. Even though I was outwardly like, oh, everything's fine, everything's good, I'm sure that there was a heaviness about me. So yes, what's happening internally, what's happening in your life is definitely a reflection of your energy body. And this is where, so illness, a lot of energy workers now are saying illness really starts in your subtle energy body, right? So if a stressor happens again and again, it really starts affecting your aura. And then it gets to your body and your energy centers. So it really starts out here before an illness will be manifested physically. So yeah.
Does it depend on whether a person really believes it's going to help?
I don't believe so. Because and I am, my biggest thing is the Reiki is complementary. This is absolutely not to be used without medical intervention. The medical intervention is absolutely important. So this is not to be used in lieu of traditional medicine, but to complement it. So for me, a lot of skeptics say, well, it's a placebo effect, which, there are no studies proving that Reiki affects one's health positively. However, studies have shown that people respond. People say after a Reiki session they feel better. So for me, in my personal experience, it absolutely does help, whether you believe or not. I have had family members ask me to send them Reiki. And by sending too, I can send it. My sister was in Utah, and I could send it to Utah, because when you reach a certain level as a practitioner, you're attuned to different symbols, and one of those is a distance symbol. So just like prayer, right? How many of you send prayer to people? Prayer is energy, right? And if people feel when people pray for them. So yes, it is effective because it's still energy working on the energy system.
Quick question, I don't know if, just answer it in the best way that you can. Talking about grief, and everybody's going through something, definitely, especially at our ages. We've been there, done that, have the t-shirt, But, so if you're going through grief, like you were, and we all have lost somebody, is it better to cry it out, or is it better to distract yourself? Because I think if you distract yourself, you're just pushing it down, down, down. And like you said, you put on weight. I definitely have too, since my parents passed. Mm-hmm. But I was also working and doing other things, so I wasn't sitting home crying all the time. But how do you get unstuck? I feel that that's what happens to the energy. You're so stuck because you're so sad or depressed that you're not giving any room for the good energy to come in.
I love how you just said you're not giving any room, because I can't speak to everyone's experience. In my experience and those around me who have experienced grief, distracting yourself just creates more blocks. And the years go by, right? And you feel sadness, or there may be anniversaries where you feel it. But personally, I believe, and it's very difficult for me, but I believe crying it out, working, because if you feel it, then you're giving your body permission to acknowledge it. Distracting yourself and pushing it down, you're not telling yourself it's okay, and you really need to feel things to be able to release them. So for me, energy work helped, because really it dissolves physical blockages, energetic blockages. For some people, that won't be the answer. Some people like to see a therapist and do talk therapy. So there are so many different things. I think part of the reason I'm here is to show that this is another alternative, because, and my bigger hope is that everyone learn Reiki, so that when you're sitting home, you can I keep putting my hands on my heart as we're talking. And this is where I feel all of this. But it's so empowering to be able to put your hands on yourself and have this energy flow through you. So you're helping yourself release these blockages. And that's so empowering. I think I've gone a little off topic. So I'm going to look at this. But this is what I want, right? Because you can have all this information about Reiki to take home, but I wanted it to be a conversation, and then maybe in the future do something else with people wanted follow up on this aspect of it. So we talked a little bit about the human energy field, and then again, how does Reiki work, right? So in a Reiki session, now I'm a hospice volunteer, so most of my Reiki work is done in hospice. So when I visit hospice clients, some don't want it, and that's fine. But in a private practice, someone would usually have a bed set up, and it's a fully clothed, and you would lay on the bed. And I personally do not put my hands on. I keep my hands a couple inches above the body. For me, I feel energy better that way, and sometimes that can be more comfortable for the person receiving it, right? If your hands are not on. And it's typically 45 to 60 minutes, quiet music, a dimmed room, and usually I don't speak. Initially, I will talk to the person about what I'm doing, but then I just let the energy work, right? And then you place hands at different parts of the body where the chakras are, and just allow the energy to be absorbed and run through the person's body. So that's what a typical session is. But again, in my hospice work, most people are not on a bed. They're in a hospital bed, or they're in a wheelchair, or they're on their couch at home. And so we really just pivot when we need to pivot. And some practitioners will have people turn over. I typically don't do the back because as energy, I think even from sending it from the front, it's going to the back, right? Unless the person has a specific issue that they want addressed on their back. So I also use it on my pets. I have a German Shepherd who just looks at me, and it's the cue, so I'll send her Reiki. My other dog, I'll send him Reiki, and he lasts for about 2 minutes, and he'll get up and he'll leave. So he's either a little more sensitive, or it's uncomfortable for him. So I do use it. You can use it to Reiki your food and water, right? So you're adding life force energy to your food and to your water. I sent Reiki to this meeting today, right? For the greatest and highest good. Now Reiki it does no harm. On the sheet there's one piece of paper that says what Reiki is and what Reiki isn't. Now that is a paper that my Reiki teacher had written for us. So it gives you an indication that it's gentle, it's harmless, it's natural, healing, balancing, and it's relaxing and energizing at the same time. Like I find with myself, if I give myself Reiki in the morning, I will fall asleep while I'm doing it. Right? So it has to be at a part of day where I'm a little more energetic, or I will put myself to sleep. And it says Reiki is not religious. I think a lot of people are concerned with the tenets of Reiki, and it's woo-woo is a term a little out there, but it's not. For those who practice Reiki, it's more of a spiritual practice because it is about living by certain principles. But as a treatment, there is no religion attached. And it is not massage, right? So even for those practitioners who put their hands lightly on, there's no manipulation of the body. It's just hands on. The hands don't move on the body. And again, it's not mysterious. So it is becoming used more often. Hospitals around the country are offering it. Like I said, hospice centers, veterinarian clinics. So it's being used and offered more widely now than ever. And it's not exclusive. Anybody can use Reiki. Anybody can become a Reiki practitioner. And I have in here, so where is it? About how Reiki works. So when you decide to become a Reiki practitioner, you would contact what's called a Reiki master teacher. And these practitioners have been attuned, right? So, and here I have attunement is a form of spiritual empowerment transferred from a Reiki master teacher to a student in a ceremony using sacred symbols. So all this is, because I firmly believe that we all are capable of accessing Reiki. I think the attunement is made, it's almost like tuning a radio, right? Like Reiki's at a certain station, and the body, the human body, and even more the mind, right, to believe that this is possible, needs to be tuned to that same frequency. And so the Reiki master teacher, through symbols, just offer this attunement, and it just matches up your frequency with the frequency of Reiki, which everybody is capable of doing. And once you've been attuned, you're attuned for life, right? So, like I said, my hope, and in working with hospice patients, I really see, because the majority are elderly, I see some of the helplessness, I see some of the depression at not being able to be a full partner in their health journey, right? They feel, and not just the patients actively dying, but the ones who have just been diagnosed too. You know, there's a feeling of helplessness, like they don't have much of a say. And as I visit these patients and send Reiki to these patients, I just thought how wonderful if they would be able to put their hands on themselves and have a sense of empowerment and be able to diminish and decrease some of their aches and pains, which really can lead to a brighter outlook on life, right? And so I have in here, you know, why the benefits. I have the benefits of Reiki and then the benefits of Reiki for seniors, which are the same. The benefits are the same for everyone. But I think with seniors, and I'm not sure what the what is the definition of a senior now? Is there a certain, because I think my husband actually qualifies to the definition. Is it a certain age? What's the age?
I think according to AARP, it's like you start getting magazines from them at 50, and most of the people that are 50 are like, there's no way, I'm not that old, you know. But I think 60 probably, 62
Yeah, that
maybe.
sounds fine.
Yeah.
So as I get a little older, I think, wow, that's young.
It is, yeah.
That's young. But also, I'm 53, so I have noticed too more aches and pains. I mean, just normal, right? And so and my husband, who is 63, really notices the aches and pains differently. You know, we're active, we bike ride, but it's a little different at the end of the day, you know, or waking up in the morning, it's a little slower. So when I say benefits for seniors, I mean, you know, there's the normal aging, the aches and pains that come with aging normally, right, for all of us. And as we get older, as I see with the clients that I see, there can be mobility issues, right? There can be the lack of being able to get in your car and drive, which can lead to depression. And that just affects one's quality of life. And so for me, physically, when we talked about Reiki and your wellness journey, for me, wellness is your physical health, right? Your mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. And it helps on all of those levels. So some of these side effects of Reiki, like I said, sleepiness, right? I fall asleep often.
Yeah, that's great. I have trouble sleeping when I'm supposed to.
But see, and then there's partly, so if there's a Reiki session done in the evening, it does help. But there's also what's called a healing response. So sometimes, and I find this with myself, if I have Reiki, or I also work with crystals, so if I have a session with crystal session as well, I'll have a healing response, which means sometimes during the session, I might get an ache in one of my hips, because that's where I tend to hold energy and have an energy block. So some people might get a headache. Some people might feel tingling, right? Anywhere in their body or in their feet. Some people get really warm because really you're adding energy, right? Some people get cooler. And so there are all these different responses. And when I say I get an ache, it resolves. It resolves itself. But I think initially some people are like, wait, that's supposed to be a healing thing, and I feel a little achy, and I feel a little, that's energy, right? Moving through your body and finding where some of those blockages are, right? So if I have a blockage, like with me with my heart, if your heart is blocked, it can affect your heart, your lungs, your shoulders, right? Your arms, your upper back. You can feel it in any of those areas. So if you get like a twinge, like I'll know if I have a twinge in my arm, sometimes I think, okay, what am I holding on to that I can release? Yeah.
I live in a community where it's independent living, and almost everyone in there is mentally or physically disabled. And I see the low energy. I'm 86, but I'm moving from there. I live in Bluebird Estates.
Okay.
But I've been there since January, but the energy level there is so low. And I take all of their problems in, and I have noticed, because I am real high energy, and I've noticed how down, and my friends have said, Cece, mentally, physically, your energy level has dropped. And I think it's because I try to stay tuned into them and bring high energy, which I do. I just made blessing bracelets for all of them. I'm giving today for blessings and gratitude. But I noticed that when you don't feel well, and like you said, when you hurt, your energy level just totally drops. But you also mentally have to think about, how do I use that energy mentally to pull myself back up again?
Absolutely.
And I found that to be, so I'm moving out, I'm signing my lease at another place today at 1. I can't, I've done all I can do, but I'm not a medical person, and I just, but what, it's sad, it makes me sad.
It
To see the energy
No, I
so low.
understand exactly
And I
what
get
you're
it, I get it, because we're all aging, and we have things that, whether it is sadness or depression or an ailment, it takes your everything you have in energy to keep on going for some of these people.
And I love that you said that, because this comes back to your energy, right? It's not that we have limited energy. We have limited physical energy, right? Like we all have a certain lifespan. But your energy, so when you are giving and giving and giving of your energy, which is so generous and kind, you start to feel that, right? And so it's important to then fill your own, right? Isn't that what, when you're on the airplane, right? Oxygen on yourself first before you can help someone else. So I'm so happy that you are aware of that, and that you are taking care of yourself and moving somewhere where there's more energy, because
It does help when you are in that high energy mode to share that with everyone you can, as long as it doesn't take that toll. When it gets to be, it's independent living, but it's like a nursing home. And so it's been very eye-opening, but as much as I try to give all my energy to them to help pull them up, I see mine going, tanking, and I'll think, wow, I can actually be aware what's sitting and how my energy has dropped. I don't know how, I know.
that's wonderful. But even with your dog question, you have an awareness of energy and how it works, and it's important. And I think as humans, right, we want to be able to help other people. We want to be able to lift them and help them out of their sadness, and we can do that to a degree. But again, we have limited ability, and there are some people, and I can put myself in that category for years, where you for short periods can accept that from other people, but it doesn't clear out what's in you. So meanwhile, you're depleting yourself with such a good intention, right, of helping those around you. But it really does have to come from inside too. I mean, there really needs to be.
You have to want to heal yourself. And it's not always easy mentally for people to pull them, we always called it a funk, to pull ourselves, get enough energy with us and mentally be able to pull ourselves out.
It's comfortable in that funk, right? It's familiar, it's comfortable.
Yeah, right.
When you're sad for a long period, or you're angry, or that's a comfortable, familiar place to be. So it's your norm. And sometimes it's scary to step out and to start feeling other. Yes.
I'm kind of like her. I'm definitely an empath. And when I can feel things that other people are feeling. And I don't know if anybody knows what I mean, but I do.
Yes, an empath, right, is someone who is
just
able
take on-
to absorb, right? You recognize and you're aware of other people's feelings, but sometimes you take that on as your
Yeah,
own.
and I shouldn't and you shouldn't. If anything, if you ask the people around you, their energy is probably better because of you. Yours isn't as good because of them.
They always say that. They
But
always say that.
I'm leading to the question to you though, do you know how to block that out and still be a kind person?
Absolutely. So again, it comes to energy. So some people are more sensitive to other people's energy and will take it on. And you will know this if you have a hard time in crowds, right? So in crowds, or if after attending an event, family birthday party, wedding, you feel drained, right? And I think that's more and more common now. I think people are feeling, especially since COVID, I think that reintroduction back into social events is exhausting for people. And so it's a practice of awareness and detachment. So first you need to be aware when you start feeling something odd, like if I'm in a perfectly fine mood and I go somewhere and I start feeling down or I start feeling overwhelmed, I ask myself now, is this my energy or is this someone else's energy? And I usually right away will get an answer. Your intuition is pretty good in that. Like if you're feeling pretty good and you enter a space and you don't, you can be pretty clear that that's someone else's energy. And then you can say, I choose, right? I choose not to allow this energy to affect me. So we're all sovereign beings and have that ability to take that energy or not. And we're not selfish if we don't. I think there's this misconception that if you don't give and give and give, that you're not a kind person. It's okay to not take on that energy, and you can still be kind and caring and compassionate without accepting that into your own energy field. And it is a practice because it takes work. It's not easy. And a lot of times when I worked as a paraprofessional at Mountain View School for a number of years, and at the end of the day, before I would leave, right before I left the doors, I would say, any energy that is not mine, I'm gonna leave here, and I call all my energy back to me. And then as soon as you open that door, you're allowing, it doesn't, again, it's a practice, right? Some days easier than others, but it's okay to say that to yourself. You can say it out loud, but you might get some looks. But to remind yourself when you're leaving a situation, a party, a funeral, a wedding, just to say, all the energies that are not mine, I'm not responsible for, I'm gonna leave. And that's okay. And I think there's hesitation to talk about energy and talk about this. And I know sometimes I talk about this with my family and they're like, I don't know. I come from a large family, I'm one of 12, and my oldest sister will be 73 this year, and she's like, I can you can see the shades start to drop a little bit. So I'd like this conversation to get out there, and what can we do? And like Reiki to me is amazing. It may not be for everybody, but there are other energy healing modalities. And it's even just an awareness of your own energy bringing in, right? Because, you know, I tend to be a homebody more than my husband. And if we're going somewhere, I really do ask myself, like, how is my energy now too? Because I don't want to bring low energy. That's my responsibility, right? To bring low energy to another. So if I'm in low energy and I can raise that energy before I go, fantastic, I'm going to go. But if I'm having a really hard time doing that, then I'm going to choose to stay home because I really don't want to share that low energy with others. But it's getting past that, but I'm expected to be there, right? Because there is this expectation within families, within friend groups, within social groups, that if something happens, then you're supposed to go. But it's okay if you're not there.
Just prepare yourself.
Prepare yourself and just say, you know, this has nothing to do with any of you. I'm not feeling
Well,
right, and I don't want to share that with others.
I never thought about leaving your energy, the bad, low energies behind. And my daughter manages senior apartments, and I am going to tell her, you need to, every day you leave, you need to hold on to your own energy and leave the other energies.
Yeah, and when I leave the other energy, I don't want to, you know, send the bad energy back to the people. I don't want to send that, but, you know, I'll be like, okay, let that bad energy dissipate.
that's such a great tip.
Yeah, and my Reiki teacher said that to me, and I was like, that's magic. It feels magical when you do it because there's a power in that, right? You have some.
I think every day, at the end of the day,
Yes.
that after you've been through stressful things, grief, whatever you've experienced, at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. Is I never thought about that, but yeah.
I think that's a fantastic.
So that's like a gratitude thing, maybe?
It is. It is. How many people here have a gratitude practice?
I started, but sometimes I forget to write. I actually started writing these great times down when my grandchildren were born, when my kids got married. And that way, when I'm feeling really, excuse my language, crappy, I open up this book and I read it before I try to sleep.
When you're in a funk.
Yes.
And here's the thing, like, right, every day on my way here, I'm grateful for this opportunity to share and receive, because those of you who are here, right, maybe open, maybe not even to Reiki, but just to, wow, I have more power when I walk, like, and you, right, your aura, just even imagine yourself having this stronger aura, because the healthier your physical body, the fewer blockages energetically you have, the stronger your aura, which helps. It's almost like, you know, a force field, right? So it really does help keep some of that negative energy at bay, and it helps you become aware, right, of energy coming toward you, and to be like, okay, so I'm not going to avoid, even though we still do, but there's that chance to say, I'm just going to strengthen this around me. And really, it's amazing when you do that within yourself and for yourself, it really affects change around you. You know, I've also noticed a change in my husband and children because I'm less sad. I have more positive energy to share, and that really does change the environment. Yes.
If I could play devil's advocate
Absolutely.
for a minute here.
Absolutely.
You say Reiki is not religious, and further on down, Reiki is compatible with any and every religion on the planet. But, excuse me, in the last 45 minutes or so, you've used terms which I think most people would perceive as religious, specifically Eastern religions. Chakras, energy systems, meridians, auras, subtle bodies, the term key, excuse me, universal, energy, life energy, ray, meaning universal. Actually, I went to Reiki.org last night trying to figure out what this was.
Yeah.
And they actually use the term higher power for ray. And also God's wisdom. Well, clearly those are religious terms.
So, right. And so Reiki is actually a Japanese term. So when you say Eastern religion, it is a nod to Eastern religion. So the man credited with founding Reiki was born into a family of Buddhists. So he experimented with and really made a life's mission of different Buddhist religions. And so it's founded in Buddhism through this man. So when I say Reiki isn't religious, I think for me it means anybody can practice it, and it doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't conflict with any religion. And when they say like higher power, right? Some people say higher power, some people say divine source, some people say universe, some people may talk about God. I think it comes down to, and when you say higher power, I know that speaks of religion. I think it means something greater than us, whatever that means. And I know that comes down to religion. But for me, I don't think that has to be.
But all religious practices are not created equal. You have to have some discernment as to what is true and what is false. I don't doubt that people experience improved symptoms, comfort, pace with grief, healing perhaps with your grief. I don't discount that. But I think we need to take a closer look at what's going on and what the so-called source, which is a religious idea, is. And so I don't think, well, put my cards on the table here, I'm a Christian. I don't beat people over the head with that, but I don't find this compatible with Judeo-Christian religion.
In what way?
Because there is a source, if you want it, or a higher power, obviously. But I don't think the practice lends itself to any kind of Judeo-Christian orientation or worldview. The ideas, and you alluded to it, in this practice, Reiki, are found in something like yoga, for instance, chakras.
That's
You
true.
can go down the street to, what is it, Heart Song, and I think you'll run into the same thing, that they speak of chakras, energy centers. There's no scientific proof for any of that. And if one wants to be healed of their grief or whatever, I think the ultimate way for that to happen is the consolation of God. And I know that's a heavy idea and takes some unpacking, but the approach one would have to that is fundamentally different than looking to some nebulous kind of source or energy, which we don't know the nature of and the ultimate source of either of them.
Right. So can I say for me, in my personal practice of Reiki, I am baptized Christian. So for my personal,
I'm sorry, you are?
yes.
Yes.
So for my personal practice of Reiki, the higher power for me is God.
Yes.
It's not for everybody. And I believe firmly that, so for me, this energy is basically divine love.
But that's your belief.
Yeah, yes. So when I say non-religious, someone else, it's like someone going through AA, right? And the higher power. I know a lot of people have a problem with AA because of the higher power. But within that, people will have a different definition for themselves of what that higher power is. It's saying, there is something larger than me. I may not be able to define what that is, but there is something larger than me that can work through me and help me.
But how do you know that what you're doing is of God?
Because it's so loving and powerful. And for me, when I tell you how this has transformed my life, it can only be of something loving.
I don't discount
Can I
your,
say something? Excuse me. No, it's important because it's what you're saying and what she's trying to explain. The way I took that it's no religion. It's not a specific religion. In other words, you can be a Christian, you can be a Jew, you could be, practice Hindu faith. And if it works for you, this Reiki, then what the heck is wrong with it? Let it be. You're not doing anything
I'm trying to answer you
sacrilegious.
here. Because something works is not a proof of anything in terms of religion and ultimate truth. A lot of things seem to work, but you have to, there's the placebo effect. You mentioned it earlier.
But if
It may be the
works-
placebo effect. It
And
may
that's
be a good thing that it works.
If it's a positive
And
thing,
you'll
then
take
why
it.
question
It's
it?
a positive thing, but you can't argue that the source of that positive thing doesn't matter. It's a placebo effect. If you're saying that something is scientific and science finds that it's just a placebo effect, there's nothing inherently powerful about a practice. It's just you think there is something
Right.
going on there, which produces
Yeah.
effects in your body or mind.
But that's
But the
only your
effect is
opinion.
fine.
No, but
That's
you
not
know
my
what's-
opinion. That's
but-
the way science works.
But you know what's wonderful is, right? So thoughts and intention have energy too, right? So that's how prayer works. So is there proof? Is there scientific proof that prayer works?
That's right.
Yes, I think there is. And the idea that thoughts have energy, can you prove that?
Well, but think about, I can prove it in so much as if I think I'm going to have an awful day, I'm most likely going to have an awful day. But if I have the thought and the intention that, you know what, I'm going to have a great day, I'm grateful. So yeah, thoughts have energy. Your intentions have energy.
I really believe we're talking about a fine line here between two things. We're talking about what everyone is born with this energy within us. Now, if you want to relate that who gave you that energy, and it could be God, but I don't think Reiki by itself should be combined with, has to be combined with your religious faith or beliefs or anything. I believe that this is something that we were all given, this energy that surrounds us. We are all given that energy. And all we are trying to do is to use that energy that we have been given within us. Now, if you want to say that, well, we wouldn't have this energy without God or whomever, our higher power, but they're really two different things. You don't have to use Reiki to talk about prayer and higher power. It's really this energy that's within us that you're trying to use. That's it.
But we don't know if there is such a thing as this energy within us. It's a belief. It's a belief system without any scientific proof.
But isn't
It comes out of, it has a source, it comes out of Eastern thought primarily. And those are questionable ideas.
It may be a questionable idea, but I think it's more of your mindset. In other words, I do meditation and I do it to clear my mind. It's part of, if you do the breathing, it takes your mind off of what your problems are. So to me, it's, if you don't want to think of it as God, if you don't want to believe that there's any energy, there's no, as you said, there's no scientific proof, but it is there's a method that comes from your mind that helps you have energy inside of you to calm yourself down. I don't know.
And there are studies though that have shown right, the electromagnetic energy field of your heart.
Right.
There are studies that show the electromagnetic field of your heart and of your brain. And so that's energy, right? Modern physics will tell us everything is energy. Everything is energy. If that's physics saying.
Yeah, that was, it was right at the tip of my tongue. For me, energy is physics.
Yes.
Yes, but physics would not affirm chakras.
But I'm not asking it to affirm chakras. See, I think
But
with an energy
But you're using
modality,
those terms, you're saying energy.
yes, it is energy.
It's qualitatively different to talk about energy in terms of physics versus religious ideas.
But I'm not talking about religious energy.
You are, so that's what
I'm
Reiki
talking
is.
about energy in and of itself, that everything is made of energy. Our bodies are energetic beings.
Yes, at some level, yes. But I don't see how that translates to this practice of Reiki or chakras or anything else for that matter. It's qualitatively
Just his opinion, it's his opinion, that's it. It's his opinion. That's it.
Anything that exists has energy because they all come from the same source. The earth, everything has energy.
So I think part of it is, right, having faith. So
Stop right there, because it's an aspect of faith. You have to actually believe in chakras and energy fields and all of that. Because
Faith is not always religious.
right, faith is not always religion, because although I'm Christian, I don't consider myself a
I would
religious
agree.
person.
But faith is a force. That's sort of thing.
Faith is
Yeah,
energy.
I get that. It is. I get that. But you have to ask the question, what's the source of all this? And is this true?
So I can tell you that within me it's true, because I feel Reiki practitioners
you're reducing
feel
it,
the
yes.
energy coming through, and people who receive it
I have no
feel the
doubt you
energy.
do. But, and I don't mean that sarcastic,
Right.
but you're reducing it to subjective experience. There's no objective proof that what you're experiencing subjectively is true.
Right, and I
And I don't doubt you have that experience. But what's the nature of the experience and where does it come from?
So I think life needs to be more subjective. So I think there is such an objective, removed aspect of our society, and I think let's pay attention subjectively to people's experiences, because so what if this is a subjective experience of mine and it worked?
It
I
works.
think, you're looking for proof. Proof comes from within. If you feel comforted, if you feel better, that's your proof.
And again,
No,
even if it's
what's true is you feel comfortable, but it doesn't mean Reiki is true. It means your subjective experience is happening. I don't doubt that.
If you would
But there are a number of reasons why you could experience
Thank you
what
so
you're
much.
experiencing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think, thank you, I think
I think I
no,
single-handedly
no, I
drove away
think
your
it's
problem.
valid. No, it's valid because everybody, and you know what, and this, I think with any kind of esoteric, any kind of energy work, there is that aspect of proof. And I think.
Yes.
Yes.
And what
And
is it?
I honestly think you're kind of my father coming through right now, because my father was a very, he wanted proof in things. And I do remember when he was ill and he said, "How do you know, Shannon? How do you know?" He said, "How do you know that you're going to heaven?" And I looked at him and I said, "Dad, I just do." I said, "I cannot prove to you. I cannot give you a study. I cannot give you a doctor's name." I said, "I just know." And so while that may not be enough for you, it's enough for me. And it's enough for me to offer this to people, and those who are open to it will benefit from it. I see it in the hospice patients, and it could be that it's just my loving energy, but
If you don't question it, if you accept
And it's okay to question. I think this is fantastic.
I think we need to distinguish between the hard sciences, that's what he's talking about, and soft sciences.
Yes.
And so if we take psychology, for instance, and do the studies, that psychology is a soft science, while a lot of the scientific methods are borrowed from hard sciences, but that's not all. And so we have a lot of studies where we look at people's well-being.
Right.
And that is something we construct measures for it. But it's also, those are constructs, man-made.
And all religion, basically, you can't prove, because there's so many different ones. Who can say which one is the correct one?
Right.
Which one is the absolute one? You know, we should be accepting of everybody and everything. And if we don't want to use it, that's fine. If we do, that's fine.
But I'm sure you're familiar with the idea of faith has its reasons, and the heart knows. So I get that. But if you're talking about two types of faith, you know, as far as you go to heaven, it's a big question, obviously. But you have a basis for that belief in Scripture, in the tradition of your faith community, that sort of thing. You're not operating in a vacuum.
Right.
You have 2,000 years of experience of people who have had somewhat similar experience to yourself.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would say the same thing.
But
That's
people
not
of other,
strict.
but people of other religions as well.
Yeah, they do, but if you get into, well, this is an apologetics class, but there's a whole body of information out there, reasons for believing in what you believe in terms of your faith that are sound, that are
I
solid.
can honestly say
They're not
my-
scientific necessarily, but some of them are, like the historical accuracy of, say, Scripture or something like that. But there's nothing like that in other religions. There's nothing like that.
Right, and I
It all
think
comes
you're
down
gonna
to
find,
subjective experience.
and there's not going to be any scientific proof of any religion or of faith. And, you know, my reason for being here today is to offer another way of influencing your health. And I understand that there's no proof, there's no scientific proof. But there is subjectively so many instances, thousands of instances of people increasing their health and wellness through the use of Reiki and other energetic modalities. So I do appreciate your question and your points. And I hope, this has been informational for you as well, and not just,
It has been, yeah.
yeah. So thank you.
I just had a question not related to this part of it. I've never seen a Reiki class or like a Reiki demonstration. Like, what do you do? I feel like that didn't get a try.
So for the practitioner, there's like an invocation, right? So I invite Reiki to flow through my body, and it comes through my palms. So I would, and again, there's a traditional like hand positions that you would use in a traditional treatment. I tend to do it more where and I know you're gonna love this, but I could will run my hand over a person and feel where the energy is blocked. So personally, if there's a blockage, whenever I'm going over the person's body, my hand will feel more hot where more Reiki is needed. So then I will tend to focus more energy, my hand positioning over those spots, and then move to the entire body. So for me, it's kind of more of intuitive. I will go where my hands direct me to go. And also based on what the person is telling me that they need. And one of my hospice clients, who is just a lovely, lovely person, he's usually very agitated when I get there. because, he's being changed and washed. So when I start Reiki, it just relaxes. He will typically fall asleep. So really it depends on the person. It depends on what they're being seen for. It depends on where Reiki is being done. There are group Reiki sessions too, where you can just stand, like if I wanted to, I could just stand up here and send Reiki to everybody.
That's what a class would be.
Yes. So I do a class at Heart Song and I send it to the group, but I stand over each person too. But yeah, you send it to the group. And the intention is for the greatest and highest good of all. So people are going to receive what they need to receive. So it may be different from person to person. Yeah.
And I don't know if you talked about this, you came in late, but you're going to be offering 3 sessions here, right?
Yes. July 18th, there's going to be a 2-hour block where you can sign up, and they're going to be 20-minute sessions just to kind of get a feel for what it is. And I'll have my bed here, but some people are more comfortable in a chair because I know lying flat can be very...
What time?
I think 9 to 11.
We have it scheduled 9 to 11, so on your way out, we do have the schedule with us. You can sign up for a 20-minute block, and if it does fill up, just put your name on the wait list, and Shannon and I will put another date on the calendar and call you. Yeah.
So thank you all so much. I have my email. Oh, yeah.
Just a comment, I learned so much.
Good.
This was awesome.
Thank you. Good.
Again, but thank you for...
And do you have an office space or?
You know what? It's funny. I don't, because this has all been kind of a whirlwind for me, because I was like, I really started Reiki for myself. That's why I became a practitioner. I wanted to. And funnily enough, it's not even a word, oddly enough, when I started this process and became a Reiki practitioner, after my 2nd level, my twin brother died. And the timing was amazing though, because I thought, prior to that, I hadn't felt like I could help myself. And I really felt that I could help myself. And so my intention was just for myself, right? My family, if they needed it. And then I started hospice, and it just, from there, ideally I would love to be able to just gift Reiki to people and not charge. So I don't have an office space yet. Right now I really do mostly volunteer type stuff, and that's hopefully where it leads. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.